Welcome to Who Corner to Corner. My name is Jeff.
My name is Paul.
And we are your hosts for this very special episode of our podcast. Tonight we are joined by a man who is responsible for the look of the 13th Doctor, the look of her companions, her fam, all the creatures and aliens and other characters across her era, plus the look of the 12th Doctor in the 9th series of the show, and look of the 11th Doctor in the 5th series of the show, and Torchwood and Fleabag. And
was that? That's a lot of bands already. Wasn't it? I mean, as if that wasn't enough, really. Who is it, Jeff?
It's Mr. Ray Holman.
Yay!
Costume designer extraordinaire. So Ray has been extremely kind to take time out of his busy schedule to come and chat with us. And we talk about all sorts of things with him. So many different things that this is part one of 2 podcasts. So Paul, we'll stop waffling and we'll just get straight into things with Ray.
Chase. Let's go.
Hi, Ray.
Hi. How are you both?
We're very good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm kind of I've been sorting my costume store out all day, so I've had shoe boxes. I'm a bit sick of them, but fine otherwise.
Good.
I wish my missus was sick of shoes. I'm sick of them, that's for sure. They're all over the place. Presumably, though, these are costume shoes, not your personal shoes.
Boxes and boxes and boxes of costume shoes.
Yeah.
Maybe you could send some of your wives down to Ray to clear some room at home.
Yeah, I might do, actually. Yeah, just on the quiet, so she doesn't.
Yeah,
she will notice, though. She will notice this.
I've got plenty, thank you.
Brilliant. Right, it's really, really good to have you join us.
Yes,
really
thank you.
Appreciate you taking the time out of your day and coming here. So we have a whole bunch of questions. There are some questions that both Jeff and I have thought of ourselves in one of our more creative sparks of imaginative sessions. But we do also have quite a few from our 3 Twitter followers as well. So we're going to fire those at you in rapid succession and see how it goes.
Good. Fine.
First of all, I wanted to talk a bit about how you got into things, really, and what inspires your love of and your interest in costume design.
Okay. I mean, I would say, without me going on too much about it, because it's a whole story that.
Yeah.
But there's another podcast that Angels did called Behind the Scenes, and they asked me to do that during the first lockdown, where I talked about my background because they knew my background, and I was one of the first designers to talk on the Angels podcasts, and so I talk quite extensively. In fact, I talk very little about costume and about more about how I got into the business. And the long and short of the story is that I'm from a working class background. I was going to go to drama college when I was after my A-levels. A careers advisor told me not to because I'm from the valleys in Wales, and said there would be no work for me anywhere. So I believed them, and I went to work for an insurance company and knew that immediately I'd made a mistake and applied for my drama college position. So I went to drama college on an acting audition, and the drama college I went to was the Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama, where you did foundation courses. So you did basically a year of doing everything. At the end of the year, I was quite surprised. I mean, I outraged when they said you can't act, but you can design. So then I went into the design department, and I was kind of looked after by the head of design, and she taught me an awful lot. And it just so happened within the first term of my second year, she taught us how to pattern cut. I just got it. It's mathematical, artistic, and suddenly I was designing sets and costumes. And because I am a certain age, and the world was different in those days, there was no social media. You didn't know. I didn't know that it was possible to be a designer. And suddenly the whole world opened up, and that's how I started. And basically, by the time I left college, I was specializing in costume. I had to do one set to get my degree. Wow. And I did a set for The Tempest, Shakespeare, but all the other work I did was costume work. So, and then I got taken in by the BBC. So
yeah. What was your first big professional project then? Would you say what was the one that really kind of elevated things? Do you suppose put you on the big stage?
Oh gosh, I mean, I worked my way through the ranks. So
Yeah.
I worked on a lot of big BBC productions from the bottom up.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I went into the BBC, and in those days we were called dressers, and I went in as a dresser. There were very few staff jobs. So for the first couple of years after college, I was freelance, and I worked at the BBC and HTV, and then back to the BBC and BBC Wales, different regions. And when I was at BBC Wales, they used to put younger up-and-coming designers onto things. They used to have a big educational department. So I used to do lots of period education programs. I found a photograph the other day of Johan Griffith when he was about
Hornblower.
10. When he was about 10.
When he was 10. Oh my goodness.
He was in one of the we were still friends for I haven't seen him for years, but I've known him since he was very young. He's in one of the period costumes I made for an educational film. So basically I worked my way through. And my first, I suppose, the big thing that I first had a credit on was All Creatures Great and Small. That was when I went back to Birmingham. I had to kind of take it over in Yorkshire, and they decided to give me a credit on it. So that was my first big credit, and in fact it was on All Creatures when Peter was in it.
Oh yeah,
so, Peter Davison.
So
it's Tristan Farnham.
I've worked with Peter quite a few times. Not on Doctor Who.
I used to love that program.
Yeah, I remember
Creatures Great
it,
Small. It was Sunday night, wasn't it? And I'm so pleased that they brought it back. It has a very similar kind of feel to the old series. I love it. I don't know why I love it, because it's ridiculous, but it's great fun.
It basically took me. I mean, you kind of went where the work was. And it took me about 6 years to become staff at the BBC. And then when I was staff at the BBC, even though you are staff, I was staff at Pebble Mill, but then I used to get sent to London because I was a male designer, loads of designers in London. I then started assisting. I didn't know, the only way I knew that Ken True had designed Doctor Who was because they'd sent me to London as an assistant to do something. They hadn't told me what it was. And I got into the building and met Ken, and he took me up to meet Jonathan Nathan Turner. I was going to assist him on Doctor Who. By the time we got back downstairs, the costume department, because male costume assistants were short, they were short of male costume assistants, they decided to take me away from Ken and put me on a job. And so I never did Doctor Who. But it was just a moment when I nearly did it as a designer.
But it came back in later life for you.
Yeah, who would know? I wouldn't. I would never have expected.
No,
but I was staff at Pebble Mill, and once you become staff and you're an assistant, in those days, assistant designer, you had to step up whenever they wanted you to design, even if you didn't do the job.
So they literally click their fingers, and you have to appear like a genius or something with your needle and thread.
The head of costume at Pebble Mill took me into the office one day and said, we want you to design a 13-part series for BBC One called Specials. It's about the police force. And I literally sat there and went, I really, really don't want to do it. And I don't think I'm experienced enough. And they just said, tough, on you go.
You're doing it.
You're doing it. That's your next 9 months. So it was, you did a lot of kind of varied work there, from big jobs to light entertainment jobs. So it was good grounding.
Brilliant.
What advice would you give to someone who wants to get into doing what you did? Because it's all, from when you started out, it's different now, and it's different now today from when I was at uni and kind of trying to get my work and things like that. But what advice would you give people?
I think it's more accessible There's more work around.
Mm.
There's certainly more work around in the UK, and there is quite a lot of work around in South Wales. You know, people, even, you know, you two, we set up this meeting because of social media. In my day, it wasn't, you didn't have any of that. You had to write to people, you had to go and have meetings with people. I mean, people can message me now on social media, and maybe I can reply and maybe I can't. You know, I reply to as many things as I'm allowed to reply to. So it's easier to see where the jobs are, but it's also harder because I went to college on a grant, and I would say people can still go to college on a grant, but it's more competitive these days. In my day, I didn't know these kind of jobs existed. And now the world has changed so much that everybody knows that you can be a costume designer or a makeup or a writer, no matter what your background is, and so it's more competitive. So you just have to keep going. There are a lot of things in the world to help people get into the industry. You know, I train people all the time on my productions. Everybody thinks that you can train millions of people. I train one person every time in production. You can't, you know, there's not. But there are traineeships available for everybody. So there are placement people like Screen Skills who run paid trainee and internships, and you have to apply for those, and they'll you have to apply for them, or you have to find a designer who will suggest you. But also, I would say you need to know your background. You can't just do these. You can't just want to do the jobs and walk into them. It's no good. You even designing, you know, when I didn't want to do that job at the BBC, I really didn't want to do it because I didn't think I was experienced enough. And I did it and it was fine, but I wouldn't say it was my finest hour, and I wouldn't say it did my confidence any good. I mean, the idea that you can say you can do it, you can say, I want to do that, but when you're doing it, it's a different, it's a very different thing.
Yeah, getting that experience is so important, isn't it? And, you know, I work with a lot of camera guys, and, you know, when they're starting out, it's all about taking those, you know, unpaid bits of work, building up the CV and the credits and things, because that's the stuff that's going to help them, you know, to get more work and grow.
Yeah, you know? And I am a bit more strict with that, because I won't let anybody come and work with me or get experience who are unpaid. So even if people, if they're attached to education, that's fine. And if they're at college and they want to come into my workroom and do some work or come on set, that's fine. But I don't, I have to pay anybody who, even if they want to get the basic experience.
I agree.
Because it becomes, you can take advantage of people. People can be exploited.
I feel bad if I've got someone who's come to work, you know, to gain experience, and they're not earning something out of it. And so, you know, I've got a couple of guys I work with a lot who started just, you know, effectively on work experience and kind of built up and do quite a lot regularly with me. But like you said, it's so different now. I remember literally walking around Soho, knocking on doors, trying to get meetings and putting letters in, sending them to studios and stuff. And, you know, you wouldn't need to do that so much.
No,
now,
you don't need to do that now.
Yeah.
You can just send your CV to designers' agents or directly to designers, or, you know, it's a different world. I think that, you know, I think a lot of the costume designers in the UK at the moment do a lot of training. We don't just, I think it's different to America. We don't just do internships where people work for nothing. We want people to earn their money
and put them on a good footing to move forward.
So
Okay, well, that's brilliant. Thank you, Ray. So our next question is, how did you come to be involved with Doctor Who on the second time around? I didn't know about your brush with it back in the JNT
back in the 80s.
Yeah,
it was a very brief brush.
yeah,
A whisper,
yeah.
a bristle.
Going into this madman's office and thinking, "Oh, what?" Because how did I get involved? Well, I used to design a series in the UK called Peak Practice, and when I was on Peak Practice, Phil Collinson was a script editor. Then he became a producer, and then we went off and did Born and Bred, which was in the year 2001 or 2000, or 2000, and that was Chris Chibnall's first ever.
It was.
Run.
Yeah, gosh, I remember that.
Produced the first series of Born and Bred, and then I went off. Then we went and did Sea of Souls. So basically, I knew Phil, and we were doing Sea of Souls. I think when he said that they were bringing Doctor Who back, and strangely enough, I didn't think I'd done quite a few period things, and quite a few. I was known as a contemporary costume designer. And when they brought Doctor Who back with Russell and Julie and Phil, I didn't think that I would be able to. They didn't know, and there was a moment when they didn't know how they were going to do creatures. I didn't think I would be able to do it, and so I just avoided that one. so I can go and do it basically. And there was a lot to do with timing, because I was still involved with Sea of Souls, but also I just wasn't confident enough to go and to step into it as a designer, and I stayed on Sea of Souls, and so I kind of progressed through from the paranormal, and Doctor Who was, they made the first series of Doctor Who, and it was a success. And then Russell and Julie asked me if I would do Torchwood, and that kind of that appealed far more to me. The basic story is that I wasn't confident enough to do Doctor Who, and I don't think they would have wanted me as this kind of underconfident person. I did go and talk to them about it, but it wasn't right. It didn't sit right, and the timing was wrong.
Didn't feel it was quite a good fit at the time.
Whereas when I went in to do Torchwood, and Russell had a clear idea for Torchwood, it was more, in a way, more adult. I'd been a designer used to dealing with very adult themes. I'd done the story of the Yorkshire Ripper, which was a really sensitive to do, and quite kind of quite hard hitting, and I was used to doing that kind of thing. So basically, Torchwood had sex in it. It was for grown-ups, and I loved doing Torchwood. I thought it wasn't, Doctor Who at that point was at an absolute pinnacle.
It was,
We were like, even though we really loved making Torchwood, we were like the younger brother or sister. Who just those over there.
The naughty sibling. Who's been a little bit more adventurous and a bit more risque, perhaps.
But then realized I was in the world. It just grew a bit more, and my confidence grew with that kind of stuff. And I got to know more people. I got to know how Millennium did their work.
Of course,
production designers, and so it kind of it evolved, and because when I was doing Torchwood, and then I did my other stuff, so I still did I did an adaptation of a Val McDermott novel called Place of Execution, which was a series made for HTV, and that story was the original story that Val gave to the writer who wrote Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. So
okay, Stieg Larsson.
Story Val wrote, and then he put it into his novel as part of the second. So, you know, that was all set in the 60s, and I really enjoyed doing Torchwood and going off to do the stuff I liked to do, which is kind of social conscious drama, which deals with adult themes, and you know, like just adult themes. I won't mention them here.
That's right.
Yeah, I can understand your feelings, you know, when they sort of, that initial conversation about Doctor Who came up, because having been doing, you know, the kind of the real world type stuff as you'd been doing, you know, kind of going so deeply into that must have been quite, you know, I would have been quite sort of nervous about it, even though you probably knew you could do it. Do you know what I mean? It's that it's so different, and so
yeah, I've got a little bit of imposter syndrome, and it's never going to go away.
Yeah,
and I didn't actually know that I could do it.
Yeah,
I knew I wanted to play safe, and I wanted to stay in my field.
Yeah.
And so, and it's evolved. It's evolved as time's gone on, and I've learned more and more. And I think that goes along with me saying, don't just leave college and just try and be a designer, you know, because you don't know everything. You can't know everything. No. It might not be good for you. And it was a great time, because I'm good friends with Louise Page, who was designing Doctor Who. At the time, she really loved working with Phil and Russell. I then stepped in to do when they used to do double banking episodes. I felt quite confident to step in, like I did my first episode of Who as a designer was Blink. And then the next year I did Turn Left. And that was because they double banked, and, you know, it was too much work for one designer. So me being the Torchwood designer, I stepped in and helped.
Yeah.
It was great fun. And suddenly I thought, oh yeah, I can design it. You know, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
And knowing how kind Russell and Phil and Julie are, it was good. It was good.
I think that's got to be quite an important thing as well, isn't it? The environment in which you're working, because it can be difficult finding confidence in yourself as much as anything else. And if the environment you're working in is nurturing and it respects the talent, then there is a space for people to kind of find their place within it, I guess.
Yeah, and when Blink was written by Stephen.
Of course it was, yeah.
Was showrunner then. Torchwood was co-produced by Chris Chibnall, and was
showrunner there, wasn't he?
On series 2 of Torchwood, and he wrote Doctor Who as, you know. So by the time I did do Doctor Who, which was series 5, the showrunner was Stephen, and Chris was writing them as well as me, but they were people I knew. So
it's quite it works like that in this industry, doesn't it? You know, you meet someone and, you know, nothing might happen for a couple of years, but you stay in touch, and then, you know, something comes up, and, you know, timings align, and, you know, all
and they remember you.
Yeah. So I remember I tweeted this to you ages ago, and you probably won't remember, because I know you get a lot of tweets and stuff, but I certainly think, and Paul does as well, that 13's costume, she is the coolest looking Doctor around. So I have a couple of...
I don't know, John Pertwee's frilly shirts, mate.
Yeah, you like
take a lot of beating. I'm very partial to the frillies.
I thought Jodie looked so fresh and vibrant
does.
in it, and it was such a nice kind of, you know, blast of color, but not too over the top, and it just suited her perfectly. And
it did, definitely. I love it.
I think she looks great.
I think it was a surprise.
Yeah.
Obviously, being the first woman. And, not only that, but it was, it's completely different, and it's completely unique, but also to be completely suitable for Jodie. You know, it's it sometimes costume designing isn't all about you don't make all the decisions. It has to be collaboration. So I was a little bit. I loved doing Jodie's costume. It was the easiest one.
Really?
I got people knew. I think people knew that I was doing. I'd done a series with Peter, and I had to go back to Broadchurch.
Yeah.
Because I promised Chris that I would finish. Broadchurch was always a trilogy.
Okay.
I promised him that I would do the whole thing with David, Olivia, Jodie.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I had to. I basically. I'll backtrack a little bit.
That's okay.
I did a series with Peter.
That was 9, wasn't it?
Series 9. I didn't want to go back to Doctor Who. I was really on a roll and loving my. I was doing Silk, I was doing Broadchurch.
Yeah.
Code of a Killer. And they ran me when I was making Code of a Killer, which was about the discovery of DNA.
Yeah.
And it's real world drama set in the 80s. And I said, will you come to Doctor Who? And I was like, absolutely not.
Oh, no.
And anyway, I did go back and I worked on one of Peter's series, and I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
I didn't think I would love it, and I did. And I didn't want to leave it to go.
Oh, really?
I had to be honourable and go back and do Broadchurch.
Do the Broadchurch story, yeah.
So I did that, and I thought, oh, well, I've messed up Doctor Who again because I've left it. but, if you're freelance,
yeah.
And I know that all Doctor Who fans will kind of go, gasp, shock. He wants to go off and do other things, but you have to be objective about Doctor Who. You can't be the biggest fan. And so when I went back, basically, I can't remember when I was told, but I found out from Chris that he was the new showrunner.
Right.
And he said, so you can go back to Doctor Who. And I said, fantastic, because I had a great time with Stephen and Peter and Brian Minchin. And it had really kind of done no end of good for my confidence in that series. And then I thought, oh, that's fabulous. And then, of course, we did I found there were a few of us who knew who the new Doctor was. Yeah. And it was Jodie, and I knew Jodie very well, and we had to keep it secret. And Jodie and I went for secret meetings,
right,
in my club in London, which is a club which helps the homeless. And I was doing a series called The Split, and I was in London working on for Jane Featherstone, about these solicitors and family lawmakers. Which was great. So I was.
And you were part of that circle, that inner circle. That must have been brilliant.
For a little while, it was just a small circle.
That's cool.
Quite nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
And then we went off on basically Jodie and I met in Selfridges one night.
Yeah. That sounds so prosaic, doesn't it?
I think we were calling the show Clooney or something. She was
right.
And they tried to get me out of a fitting room with her because man and woman in a fitting room.
Yeah. No, imagine how this plays out.
I'm fine. Ray is my friend. He's invited me, and we put an outfit together for the reveal video, and then we went off and filmed it in secret.
Yeah.
And then nothing happened for a little while because I think we did that the week before it was revealed. Then it was revealed. And then I think I started working with Jodie about a month later on the costume.
Right.
And we'd been talking. I mean, Jodie had done some research and I'd done some research.
Yeah.
So, and the thing is, everybody thinks they can tell you what that costume should be. But the thing about a costume, the Doctor's costume, is it's a collaboration.
Mm.
You
Yeah,
know, Doctor Who is a brand, so it has to, that image, that costume has to satisfy so many people.
I bet.
yeah.
Not just one person, but the main person that it has to help is the actor.
The actor,
And so me and Jodie talked a lot about it. She showed me, obviously, as everybody knows, she showed me her research. I was a little bit. There were articles coming out at the time saying, like in Vogue, they did a what would the new Doctor look like? What would a woman Doctor look like?
Right.
And you know, they're fairly sexist. You know, frilly skirts and brooches.
Yeah.
And stuff. And so had to kind of dismiss all that and do the right thing for Jodie. And Chris was really good in that he let me and Jodie explore that. And we did explore it, and we got to the silhouette quite quickly. We knew we wanted a coat. We knew we wanted it to have a hood. We knew we wanted we didn't want a skirt. I knew I wanted boots. We toyed with the idea of trainers, but I like the idea that the Doctor has to run places and sometimes outdoors, and that has to be practical. We wanted, obviously, any Doctor's costume needs to have pockets because
absolutely essential.
And I got a load of, shall I say, a load of shit from because I couldn't discuss whether the Doctor's costume had pockets or not. Because you can't, if you've signed an NDA, you cannot remove it. And so
you've got to keep it zipped.
So but also in a kind of in an obtuse way, I kind of think, just think about it, people. Think about it. Have a think about what the Doctor does.
Look at the other 12 and
has a sonic screwdriver. The Doctor's pockets are full of
work out.
She's not going to not have.
I know.
So it just evolved. And I can't remember. I've got an early sketch, which is a sketch of her wearing trainers, but we changed that quite quickly. And I think we did 14 fittings for the coat.
Really?
14 fittings. Wow.
So
that I've got two questions. Sorry, Paul, you might have had one as well. My first
That's
one,
all right, you crack on.
a quick one. Whose idea was the bum bag that the Doctor wore in
we when we were originally talking about the costume, we did talk about a bum bag,
right?
And so the bum bag was there from the beginning, and it was Jodie's idea, and it was a way of just having a flashback to the 80s. And because in her first series we'd talked about it, we thought we'd try it. The long and short of the bum bag is that it was an idea. We tried it. It runs, it bashes against her tummy. So it was like, oh, let's not use it. But we tried it. We tried all sorts of different things. We tried jumpers, different T-shirts, or all sorts of things. But because the basic silhouette of Jodie's costume has stayed the same, because what the BBC was saying to me was, whenever I suggested we change it, was we like it. I changed it out as much as I possibly could within the parameters without changing the silhouette. So my next question was, I remember seeing photos of Matt Smith in his first fittings, going through a whole load of different looks, but before settling on the bow tie and the tweed jacket. So did you do similar with Jodie, or were you always quite clear about the coat, the hood, and that kind of thing? Yeah, it seemed like with the men we explored a lot more. There's a lot more. We were quite. I think we were quite specific with Jodie's costume. Jodie was very, look, these are the silhouettes I want to work with. Let's go with that. Whereas with menswear and with men's costumes and historical men's costumes, it could have been anything. And also searching for that costume was painful at times.
Was that
good? But there's such a lot to go through, and if Jodie came with a firm, clear idea, some actors are different.
Yeah.
So Peter, for example, will always dress according to that script. He'll have his basic silhouette, but he'll want to do something that relates to that story.
Right.
Yeah, he did change quite frequently, didn't he? Sometimes from story to story.
We changed him quite a lot. Matt was a young actor, a brilliant young actor, who we didn't know whether to. There was an exploration.
Yeah.
What people realize is that, or maybe what they do realize is that, sometimes you have to, when you do costume fittings, you try on things that maybe they're possible, maybe they're not.
Yeah.
Explore things, and you do that in any situation. You do it with period costume, you do it with contemporary costume.
Yeah.
So once what we did with Matt is on a feature film, you might have 3 months, 6 months prep. On Doctor Who, you have 5 weeks.
Right.
5 weeks. That's it.
So I think I had 6 weeks with Matt, and within that 6 weeks, we had to do a press release of his costume. So I think we had 5, and it was getting really, we couldn't really think what it was going to be. But what it did for Matt was he was reading more and more about what he wanted his to be like. And so he, young designer, he wanted to feel older and geekier. And though you've got all the possibilities of history, he wanted a tweed jacket. And even when we did the fitting with Stephen and Piers, Beth in the room, we knew the tweed jacket was right, and we knew that he needed something else. I had the Paul Smith shirt and the boots and the rolled up trousers. And Matt said, let's try a bow tie. And we went, okay.
Because we all know bow ties are cool. Yeah.
Or should we both try a tie? And the tie didn't work. And the bow tie was like, wow, that's
brilliant.
That finished it.
But it's, you have to experiment.
And
I feel like it feels to me, and I'm very sensitive and a bit sensitive about things, like people say, oh, look, you had to go through all those costumes before you could find one for Matt. That's about being sympathetic and about helping the actor and helping the production find its way. It's about all sorts of things. And then you get to Peter, who wants to read a script and then decide what his costume is going to be. And then you get to Jodie, who has a very firm idea about what she wants to do.
Every actor is different, aren't they? But a whole part of the creative process is often kind of feeling your way, and
it is sometimes trial and error.
When I sit down to do an edit on something, or you're writing something, Paul, you might have that sort of initial idea, but as you work towards it, you think, oh, actually I could do that, or what if I put this here? And so much like it's
the same when people write, when writers write scripts, they can move scenes to different, it's an editing process.
You can write whole pages of dialogue and then get rid of them, and then maybe keep one line out of it that's going to carry forward.
And so what I bring as a costume designer is my knowledge of the history of costume, my knowledge of making an actor feel like they can perform in the costume, and my knowledge about how to make the costume, how to cut a costume. As I said, with Jodie's coat, we did about 14 fittings, and we'd made it in calico first, and we were doing secret fittings. Of Soho in a back room.
That sounds very salubrious.
But in Chris Kerr's tailor's shop, and really paranoid whenever anybody.
I bet. I can
When that
imagine.
bell
They got a
rings on the
secret
door.
camera somewhere.
Yeah.
Don't say anything. Don't say
Yeah.
anything.
Oh,
Nobody
keep
must know
quiet.
when you're in.
So this one here, who is Salty Space Ghost at Salty Girl, who asks, I'd love to know about the concept and thinking behind the 13th Doctor's outfits, particularly the rainbow stripes on 13's t-shirt. Is there any significance to the colors? So picking up from where we were, really.
It's a rainbow, and Jodie specifically asked for a rainbow because we knew the series would be inclusive. Please don't shoot me, because Doctor Who has always been inclusive.
Absolutely right. Absolutely.
And the point about the rainbow is that we weren't thinking about whatever had gone beforehand.
Yeah.
We were thinking about what this needs to be to move forward. We were putting a rainbow into the costume because we wanted to, and we're not going to not do it because somebody's going to disagree with us. But the point of the rainbow, the point of color in the Doctor's costume is moot, in fact, because I just come from I'd done Matt, I'd done Peter, and literally when an actor says, I want this costume to be colorful, you kind of I did go a bit quiet.
It could have ended up like Colin Baker's outfit for the Sixth Doctor, if you're not careful.
But there's nothing wrong with Colin Baker's outfit.
I actually love it.
You don't want to copy it.
Yeah, exactly.
It has to be something unique. And so the rainbow is a really good way of putting color into the costume. When we were making the coat, I will say I wasn't quite sure what color it would be, because we were making it in calico and getting the shape of it and recutting it. And Jodie had a very specific idea about the Doctor, and she wanted whatever the Doctor wore, whatever colors the Doctor wears, her Doctor wears, could be seen in the sky at any time. So
that's nice. That's beautiful.
Yeah, I love that.
Even when you put reds on her, they're colors from a sunset, and so so it had to be based on blues and any color that was in the sky, and that was a really good way to move forward. And when Jodie said, I'd quite like the coat to be, we chose the light grey because, well, Jodie chose the light grey. And I thought it should be a bit darker. But what we do with the light, but when she put it on, and we just realised it all came together.
Yeah. I was going to say, with the rainbow, it's great because, it represents a whole lot of things. But even just on a kind of a basic level, like my twins, they're nearly 4 and 2 girls. And, they know I like Doctor Who, and they know that the Doctor's a woman, and they love the rainbow on the t-shirt. Look, Daddy, she's wearing a rainbow. So they think it's brilliant, and they were very confused when they saw other DVDs, and they said, "What's this?" And I said, "It's Doctor Who." It's a man. I thought, how do I explain this to them? So my son, he's 7. He's got it, but the girls, they've still got all that to come.
And I think the rainbow can be it can be whatever anybody wants it to be. It doesn't have to be anything specific.
No.
I did put. I think I put in some of her t-shirts. There wasn't just 7 colors; there were 12 colors because we hand printed them. And so it's a rainbow, but it's a rainbow with more colors. So you can
play around with it quite a bit. I mean, my daughter, she's 14, and she's got a lot of those rainbow colored type t-shirts. A lot of t-shirts with that rainbow logo on. It's really something. And as a design thing, it's there as a mark of, or a kind of recognition of the inclusivity of the program as well. It's something, and that's something again that my daughter's got really into. You know,
Yeah.
she finds it a way into the show, and it's something she can identify with and wear with literally with pride. You know, it's really quite an important thing from that perspective as well.
And you know, one of the important things about Doctor Who is that it's a family show.
Yeah.
We want 8-year-olds to watch it with their grandparents. And yes, questions will arise, but it's not just an adult. It's not for adults, it's for kids as well. It's for the whole family.
It's a whole family, isn't it? Yeah.
And I think that what Jodie's costume has done is it isn't specifically, it's not a traditional woman's costume, like that. It's gender fluid. I don't know if we did that deliberately or not. That's just how it came out for Jodie.
And it just felt right, presumably, did it? Once it was all in place?
Yeah, it felt right. And of course, it'd be great in the future if, you get a female Doctor who's really tailored. Like men have been in the past. But this was right for Jodie. It was right for me. It was right for Chris Chibnall, and it was right for her period on Doctor Who.
Yeah. But
me and Jodie talked about the costume in a video. I don't know where that video is. It may be on YouTube.
Yeah. Is it the pair of you in the sort of workshop? And
yes, we're in the workshop.
I've seen that, and you talk about the earrings and things.
And the earring, because Jodie wanted the specific earring.
the hands and the chain.
That's another thing Frey likes as well. Actually, my daughter, she loves those earrings and those chains and everything. She loves all that stuff.
And the idea was because we went to Alex Monroe, who's a really good jeweler and is a friend of mine and a friend of Jodie.
Right.
And literally chose the stars, and the chain is the journey to human beings, and the hands are silver and gold because they represent different nations of the world.
Yeah.
And that's what we wanted.
I love the thought behind it and the meaning in it as well. I think it's brilliant. Paul, I think that's a good point to pause there. We've covered a huge amount of stuff with Ray in this first part of the podcast. So we will be back in the next episode to talk more with Mr. Holman and cover a further massive range of topics with him. So thanks for listening, everyone. We hope you've enjoyed this. Hope you've taken some inspiration and advice from it, and some cracking stories as well. And we'll see you next time.
See you next time.